Philippine Central Bank has cut its key rate for the fifth consecutive time as inflation remains benign. Easing comes at a time when outlook for growth weakened as the nation grappled.
The World Bank forecasts lower growth for the Philippines in the next 2 years due to public works corruption and storm-related shocks.
The real issue facing the Philippines today is not whether the economy will grow, but how fast and who benefits. If the country truly wants to lift millions into the middle class, create better jobs, and keep pace with its neighbors, aiming for 5 or 6% growth is not enough. The national goal should be at least 8% growth a year. Recent forecasts have been revised downward to 5 to 6% in 2026 and 6 to 7% by 2028, reflecting global slowdown, high interest rates, and rising geopolitical risks. These concerns are real, but low targets also shape low ambition.
The Philippines logged slower economic growth amid a corruption scandal gripping the nation.
When a country plans for modest growth, it often builds cautious policies and ends up with cautious results. 8% growth is not about taking reckless risks. It is about focus and discipline. At that level, the economy can create more quality jobs, reduce poverty faster, and raise incomes beyond Metro Manila. It also gives the government more space to invest in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and climate resilience. The region shows this is possible. Vietnam sustained high growth by prioritizing exports, infrastructure, and clear economic goals, turning growth into factories, jobs, and higher living standards. For the Philippines, aiming higher means moving faster, fixing bottlenecks, and working together more effectively. One truth stands out: a country cannot grow fast if it cannot move fast. People, goods, tourists, and capital must flow easily. That is why reaching 8% growth depends on strong enablers, and one of the most important is aviation-led connectivity. In January 2026, the Philippine government used aviation to deliver a wider economic message. At the celebration of Philippine Airlines' 85th anniversary at Villamor Air Base in Pasay City, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. went beyond honoring the country's flag carrier. He used the moment to stress how deeply connectivity and infrastructure are now tied to national growth. The highlight of the event was the unveiling of Philippine Airlines' new Airbus A350-1000, the most advanced aircraft in the airline's fleet, and the first of its kind operating in Southeast Asia. On its own, this was a major milestone for the airline. But in a broader sense, it reflected a deliberate strategy, one that links government investment in infrastructure with private sector modernization to push the Philippine economy forward. Addressing government officials, diplomats, and business leaders, President Marcos made it clear that aviation is no longer just about moving passengers. For an archipelago like the Philippines, he framed it as a foundation of economic expansion. Distance, geography, and logistics costs shape how easily regions can trade, attract visitors, and connect to global markets.
They strengthen our aviation sector, expand connectivity, and open doors to trade, tourism, and investment. In doing so, we reaffirm aviation's role as a powerful engine of economic growth and of national development.
In that context, airports and airlines are not optional assets. They help determine which areas grow and which are left behind. The setting itself carried meaning. Founded in 1941, Philippine Airlines is not only Asia's oldest airline, it is also closely woven into the country's economic story. Over decades, it has carried overseas Filipino workers, supported tourism, and opened long-haul routes that linked the Philippines to key global markets. The introduction of the A350-1000 symbolized an effort to renew that role at a time when global aviation is becoming more competitive, more technologically demanding, and more focused on sustainability. By centering the message on aviation, the administration sent a clear signal. Faster growth requires faster movement. People, goods, tourists, and capital must flow more easily within the country and across borders. Airports, aircraft, and air routes are no longer side concerns in development planning. They are central tools in building a stronger, more resilient economy. President Marcos reinforced this point by directly linking airport upgrades and airline modernization to the country's ability to compete, develop its regions, and expand economic opportunity.
In the Siargao Airport, we are constructing a modular passenger terminal building. In Davao, we are building a new international PTB. Through our partnership with the private sector, we have also started upgrading and expanding the Laguindingan Airport in Misamis Oriental and the Bohol Panglao Airport and also the Caticlan Airport. And there, we have a new terminal that is underway to better serve both local travelers and tourists. These projects will spur regional development and economic growth.
The message was simple and direct. If the Philippines wants growth that is both faster and more inclusive, it must invest seriously in how people and goods move. As the first aircraft of its kind in Southeast Asia, the aircraft represents more than a fleet upgrade. It shows how public policy and private investment can move in the same direction. While the government improves airports, immigration systems, and regulations, airlines invest in modern aircraft that can open new routes, lower costs, and compete globally. Together, these efforts turn aviation into a driver of trade, tourism, and long-term investment. In the past, aviation was often treated as a support service, important but secondary. Today, it is increasingly recognized as core economic infrastructure, alongside seaports, power systems, and digital networks. For the Philippines, this shift is especially critical. Without strong air links, regions remain isolated, logistics costs stay high, and growth becomes uneven. President Marcos captured the idea simply when he said, "When we build strong connections, we also build a much stronger nation."
As Philippine Airlines continues its journey, may it remain a steady partner in nation building by helping carrying our people, our products, and our dreams to the world. This administration remains committed to upgrading infrastructure, modernizing airports, enhancing connectivity, and boosting the economy.
Before the pandemic, aviation accounted for roughly 3 to 4% of global GDP, directly and indirectly. Philippine Airlines, founded in 1941, is part of the country's modern history. It was Asia's first commercial airline, and shortly after World War II, it became the first Asian carrier to cross the Pacific in 1946, and the first to fly to Europe in 1947. These milestones mattered because they placed the Philippines early on the global aviation map, long before many of its neighbors had international air links. Over the decades, PAL has continued to play a role that goes beyond business. As the country's only full-service four-star airline, it acts as a national connector, linking Philippine cities to major global markets. Long-haul routes to North America, for example, do more than carry tourists. They support trade, bring in investment, and keep overseas Filipino workers connected to home. For many Filipinos abroad, PAL is often the first and last link to the country.
The airline also works as a tourism multiplier.
Direct long-distance flights make it easier for visitors to reach the Philippines without multiple stopovers. This matters because tourists who travel farther tend to stay longer and spend more, especially in destinations outside Metro Manila. When routes open or capacity expands, hotels, restaurants, transport services, and small businesses often feel the impact almost immediately. Beyond numbers, PAL carries symbolic weight. It represents reliability and continuity at a time when global aviation is highly competitive and often unstable. For foreign travelers and investors, a strong national carrier signals that a country is open, connected, and capable of sustaining long-term links with the world. In that sense, Philippine Airlines does not just move passengers, it quietly supports the country's image and economic standing abroad.
The arrival of the Airbus A350 marks a major turning point for Philippine Airlines, and for the country's aviation sector more broadly. This aircraft is the most advanced in PAL's fleet, and notably, the first A350 operating in Southeast Asia, and only the 10th worldwide at the time of delivery. That alone places the Philippines in a more competitive position in long-haul air travel. What makes the A350 important is not just its size or range, but its efficiency. Compared to older wide-body aircraft, it uses up to 25% less fuel, which significantly lowers operating costs for airlines. Less fuel use also means lower carbon emissions, an increasingly important factor as global aviation faces pressure to become more environmentally responsible.
For an airline operating long-distance routes, these savings matter. Fuel is one of the biggest costs in aviation, and cutting it down helps keep routes viable, even when global oil prices rise.
The aircraft is designed specifically for ultra-long-haul flights, including routes to North America and other major intercontinental markets. This is where the Philippines stands to gain the most. Long-distance routes are expensive to operate, and in the past, some were simply not profitable enough to sustain. Airlines around the world that use A350 planes have shown clear results. They are able to fly long routes with lower costs per seat, open routes that were once too thin or risky, and offer a better experience for passengers. Cabins are quieter, air pressure is more comfortable on long flights, and the aircraft can travel farther without refueling. These improvements may sound small, but they matter a lot on flights lasting 12 hours or more. For the Philippines, the impact is very practical. The A350 strengthens Manila's connections to North America, where millions of overseas Filipinos live, and where tourism and trade links are strongest. Better aircraft also help Manila compete with other regional hubs by offering airlines and passengers more reliable and efficient long-haul options. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. captured the broader meaning of the upgrade when he said it complements our efforts to modernize the aviation sector and embrace more sustainable practices for the future. In simple terms, the aircraft shows how modernization works best when government policy and private investment move together. One, improving infrastructure on the ground, the other upgrading what flies above it. Modernizing airports across the country is one of the most direct ways the government is trying to spread growth beyond Metro Manila. Over the past few years, several regional airports have either been upgraded or placed on a clear development track. These projects may look small on paper, but their impact on local economies is often immediate. In Siargao, a new modular passenger terminal is being built to support the island's fast-growing tourism industry. In Davao, a new international terminal aims to strengthen the city's role as a southern gateway for trade and travel. Airports in Laguindingan and Bohol Panglao are also being expanded to handle more passengers and flights, while Cataclan Airport, the main entry point to Boracay, is getting a new terminal to keep up with strong tourist demand. Experience shows that airport upgrades in tourism-heavy areas tend to deliver quick results. Passenger numbers usually rise soon after improvements are completed. More flights mean more visitors, which in turn creates jobs in hotels, transport, food services, and small businesses. In many cases, airport expansion becomes a trigger for wider development, new roads, new investments, and stronger local revenues. At the national level, the government is also tackling the most complex challenge: modernizing Manila's main international airport. This effort is being carried out through a public-private partnership, allowing private operators to bring in capital and expertise while the government focuses on oversight and long-term planning. By December 2025, new passenger facilities were already operational, and immigration e-gates had been rolled out to speed up arrivals and reduce long queues. The results are practical and visible. Passenger flow has become faster, the travel experience has improved, and Manila is slowly becoming more competitive as a regional hub. In a region where travelers and airlines can easily choose alternative gateways, these improvements matter. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. summed it up clearly when he described these projects as investments in mobility, in opportunity, and in national progress. In simple terms, better airports help people move, help businesses grow, and help the country stay connected to itself and to the world. One reason the aviation push is moving faster than before is the growing use of public-private partnerships, or PPPs. Under this model, the government works with private companies to build and operate major infrastructure projects. The advantage is straightforward. Private firms bring in capital, technical know-how, and experience in running large facilities, while the government focuses on setting rules, protecting public interest, and planning for the long term. In aviation, PPPs help projects get built faster and run more efficiently. Airports are expensive and complex, and delays can slow growth for years. By sharing the burden with the private sector, the government reduces pressure on public finances while still delivering critical infrastructure. This approach also sends a strong signal to investors that the Philippines is open to long-term partnerships and serious about improving connectivity. The administration has been clear in encouraging private companies to expand investments linked to aviation, from airports and terminals to logistics, maintenance, and support services. The idea is simple:
When business incentives align with national goals, growth becomes easier to sustain. Better airports attract airlines, airlines bring passengers and trade, and local economies benefit from the flow of people and goods. Beyond technology, the long-term vision is broader. Aviation is being positioned as a tool for inclusive growth, helping regions outside Metro Manila connect to opportunities. It supports regional equity by making it easier for people in the provinces to access jobs, markets, and services. And it acts as a bridge between local economies and global markets, allowing Philippine products, workers, and ideas to move more freely.
If you found this analysis valuable, share your perspective in the comments. Your insights help deepen the conversation and sharpen our understanding of evolving regional dynamics. Thank you, and we will see you soon in our next geopolitical discussion.